welcome once again to another edition of Smoke Signals. I'm Ethan, um, your host Ethan Morris here once again. It's been a minute since I've done a video, um, quite a while actually, so I wanted to kind of catch up on a couple of things that we haven't talked about. A couple of folks that we've lost in the music world, in the rock world in particular, and also wanted to talk about some recent and upcoming shows that I've attended. Saw the Mighty Weed Eater once again coming out of Wilmington, North Carolina. They played at the One Stop in Asheville just this past Friday. It was an awesome show as always. The third time I've seen them. The previous time was in Johnson City at the Hideaway, Johnson City, Tennessee. And then the first time was back in 2021. I saw them at One Stop as well. So anyway, those guys always put on a great show. Just three-piece, sludge, stoner metal, really, really good stuff. And huge fan of those guys. Coming up, I'm going to be seeing Built to Spill. I believe that's in April. Lucinda Williams for the second time coming up, and I think that is coming up in the summer. And then I've got Bouncing Souls, which is not going to be until December of this year. But those are some shows I'm looking forward to. And let's see, newly added to the collection. Picked this up recently. Get the glare off that. Probably my all-time favorite album by my all-time favorite, one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band, Deep Purple in rock. This was kind of the transition period for them, moving away from psychedelic, early kind of soul-based acid rock to proto-metal and hard rock, which is kind of like this was their first really foray into heavy metal music, what was called heavy metal at the time, 1970, classic in rock. You've got songs like, classic songs like Speed King, Bloodsucker, Child in Time, which was like a huge song for them, very dramatic, early finger tapping, even before Eddie Van Halen on that song. You can find really cool live footage on YouTube of that. Child in Time, just really dramatic. Song from them. Into the Fire, which is great. Living Wreck, Hard Lovin' Man. Love all these songs. Flight of the Rat. I mean, that's, classic stuff right there. Deep Purple in rock. I just added that to my collection. And now for the more somber news. Like I said, I haven't done a video in quite a while, but back in November, we lost Christine McVie from Fleetwood Mac. Christine had been in Chicken Shack, which was a British kind of blues-based band, for a while with her husband, John McVie. John McVie, of course, along with Mick Fleetwood, the original founding members of this band, Fleetwood Mac. There's two of their more well-known albums right here. Of course, their big breakthrough, self-titled from 1975. And then, of course, Rumors, their massive, gigantic hit, one of the biggest selling rock albums of all time. But Christine, was one of the driving force, but kind of unspoken. She didn't get a lot of credit at the time, in my opinion, and a lot of people's, overshadowed by Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. But her contributions to this self-titled album, for example, you've got Good Over My Head, which is huge, great song. Over My Head, and Say You Love Me, which is my all-time favorite, probably my all-time favorite Fleetwood Mac song, up there with Dreams and a couple of other, World Turning, another good one. Oh Well, some of their favorite. On here she does, on Rumors she does Oh Daddy and Songbird, which is just beautiful. Um, but You Make Love and Fun was another big hit for them on this album. But Christine was the kind of the more soulful voice coming from the band. Their voices all kind of worked really well together. Lindsay, Stevie's, and Christine, and she will be missed definitely. She was always kind of like the foundation of the melody in those songs. Lindsay, was sort of the driving guitar work, his finger picking and everything. Kind of a lot of electricity coming from him. Stevie was a great lyricist and had that kind of like raspy voice, but Christine's voice was the more soulful, very British, that really took the best elements of the British blues boom and then took it later on into the 70s with this group. And her piano, her organ, playing the electric piano, and her riffs were just classic, especially on that Say You Love Me. Let's see, later in January, unfortunately, we lost one of the legends of rock and roll and one of the founders of really everything from British invasion to British blues boom, early pioneer of heavy metal, hard rock, prog rock. He got into, and I didn't actually pull it out, but Blow by Blow and Wired. Two of my favorite albums by this guy right here, and I just pulled this out, Truth. This is back when Rod Stewart sang lead vocals in the Jeff Beck group. But yeah, you got Rock My Plum Soul, Shapes of Things, they reworked that, the Yardbird song. And I think I saw it. It's also got Green Sleeves on it, which is a really nice version. You Shook Me, which was, of course, also done by Zeppelin around that time. Rick Beato recently did a video on Jeff and talked about how when Jeff Beck played, he never missed a note. And that you can't say about a lot of guitar players. But more importantly, the amount of bands and genres that he influenced is just almost immeasurable. I mean, like I said, it's everything from heavy metal, hard rock, blues rock, British blues boom, prog rock, his jazz fusion stuff, like I said, with Blow by Blow and Wired, just incredible, absolutely insane, and he will be missed, of course. Can't say enough about Jeff. I remember when I was a kid growing up, him and Rod Stewart did a version of the Impressions, Curtis Mayfield and the Impressions, People Get Ready, and that was kind of a pretty big hit video for them in the 1980s. And I just remember that was sort of my introduction to Jeff Beck, believe it or not. But I just have come to really appreciate him a lot in the last couple of years. I had this album I've had for a while, but really got into his jazz fusion stuff recently. Unfortunately, just a couple of years ago, right before he passed away. So there's a famous quote I know from Eric Clapton who said, "What he knows of Jeff Beck is either working on his cars or playing guitar." And there was just no in between for him. He was just constantly playing, constantly recording, touring. He was a part of that infamous tour with Stevie Ray Vaughan and Eric Clapton back in the early 90s, unfortunately. Robert Cray was also on that. Unfortunately, that was the one where Stevie Ray died in a helicopter crash. But, yep, and there's the back cover there. Jeff Beck. And, I mean, we're talking about a guy who, up there with Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Jimi Hendrix, that's this level of rock pioneer. I mean, he really laid the foundation. He was one of the guys, the bridge between the British invasion, the British blues boom, and then what would become prog, glam, hard rock, heavy metal, proto-metal, everything else that came into the 70s. He was kind of so many especially hard rock and metal bands. Look back to that guy as an influence. And then also in January, we lost this guy, Tom Verlaine, pioneer, founding member of television. Tom Verlaine, born 1949, and born in Denville, New Jersey. And, you know, Tom Verlaine is the guy that his guitar work is what really impressed me early on. Um, he was a part of the whole CBGB's scene, early new wave in punk music that was coming out of New York and New Jersey in the mid to late 70s, along with bands like The Cars, Talking Heads, Blondie, Ramones. Pretty much we all know the story, right? Influenced by bands like Modern Lovers and Velvet Underground. Tom, this album here, Marquee Moon, is their seminal work. I mean, this is like one of the greatest albums ever in any genre. But if you're talking exclusively about the new wave and punk genre, this, just listen to this album and listen to the guitar work on this. Their second album is pretty good too. I don't have a physical copy of that, but this album gets overlooked a lot. This was kind of like their return. At the time, it was a critic's favorite, 1992, and I love the track 1880 or so on here. Just a brilliant album. The guitar work still, even 20-something years later, Tom still had it. And I know when I first picked this up, this was some of the most interesting guitars I'd ever heard in rock music. And I remember reading a review even before I bought this, talking about how the guitars kind of interplayed with one another. It was really unique. And, Tom Verlaine, another one gone, unfortunately. But I would say Elevation, Marquee Moon, the title track on this, and then 1880 or so is the song on this. Probably my 3 favorite television songs. And then we also lost this guy, and I just kind of pulled something out. He's written a million songs, but Dionne Warwick album here called Dionne. It's Burt Bacharach. Burt Bacharach is one of the all-time most important songwriters in pop music, rock music, more so in the pop vein. But he passed away just the other day. Obviously from an older generation, so it wasn't as much of a shock as perhaps some of the others that we've talked about here. But yeah, he passed away back on February 8th, and he was 94. So yeah, quite a bit older than Tom, Jeff, Christine. But you think of songs like Rainy Days and Mondays. He wrote songs for the Carpenters. That's a Carpenter song. He wrote just countless things for Dionne Warwick in her early career. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head by B.J. Thomas. You think about that kind of that was his signature sound, Burt. But definitely a loss. Of course, he lived quite a long life, but it was more active in the 60s and 70s with his songwriting. But his songs, they can be heard throughout the ages. Always something there to remind me, which Sandy Shaw was redone by Naked Eyes in the 80s. Just a lot of songs. Kind of hard to know exactly where to begin, but those are kind of the ones that jump out to me. Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Rainy Days and Mondays, and Don't Make Me Over, and all these great songs by Dionne Warwick. Just a classic American songwriter, Burt Bacharach. Rest in peace. And then last but not least, we lost this guy, Mr. David Crosby. Picture right here. This is their first album, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Classic album. Um, and you've got the second album, Deja Vu, with Dallas Taylor and Neil Young on this one. Um, Almost Cut My Hair, long time gone. Wooden Ships, um, Carry On. Those are some of my favorites, and they long time gone. It really features David's vocal predominantly, and Almost Cut My Hair as well. Um, but here I've got this album he did with Graham Nash. Let's see the photo on the back there. Yeah, Graham Nash and David Crosby. Always a very outspoken guy, you know, very known for his opinions. Here's another Crosby and Nash album, and a couple of Birds things when he was in the Birds, Fifth Dimension, and Turn, Turn, Turn. Even back when he was in the Birds, you know, Roger McGuinn said that he was a force to be reckoned with. You know, always opinionated. Some of the stuff you agree with, some of it you don't. But he was always brutally honest about his opinions about music, about other people. And, you know, there was always a lot of tension between the members of Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young. And they would split apart, get back together. But just an incredible voice. I mean, you know, what a legend. Will definitely be missed. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of do a video to kind of talk about some of the people we've lost in the last couple of months. And I'll be coming up with a video shortly talking about things in 2023 as far as the music world is concerned that we would like to see less of. That's going to be my next video. Hopefully get that out tomorrow. But rest in peace to all these folks, and Christine McVie, Tom Verlaine, Jeff Beck, David Crosby, Burt Bacharach. We're losing quite a few lately, and you know, I think that's something that we're, unfortunately, not to be morose, but I think it's something we're going to have to get used to for the next 10, 20 years. We're going to be losing a lot of major players in rock history. But anyway, that's all for now. This is Smoke Signals. Until next time, I'm Ethan Morris. We'll see you soon.